This is Unsigned with GameLeap, and today's video is going to be a little bit different. In today's video, I'm going to be giving you a tip for every support hero in Overwatch 2. Supports in Overwatch are incredibly diverse. There is a whole bunch of really unique hero-based tech, but in this tips video, we're going to be focused on the most important mechanics to make you the most effective on your first games on these heroes before you give them a deep dive. If you really want a deep, intrinsic look into all things Overwatch 2, especially when it comes to the hero unique tech, make sure that you go to GameLeap.com by clicking the description box below. Follow the link to take you to the site where you can see the highest quality guides written by coaches such as myself. Now, let's go ahead and get right into this video, starting off with Ana. Ana is a hero in Overwatch that requires an incredibly high amount of accuracy. The easiest way to train this accuracy is by being patient. If we have a wrong tempo on this character or we're consistently missing our shots, then basically every other support is going to be more effective. However, when we slow things down and we land our shots and we're on target, we have one of, if not the highest single target healing character in the entire game. And this is without Grenade. When Grenade is paired into this, we have an incredibly hard to punish brick wall of a support that will keep basically any tank or DPS alive. Make sure that you're watching your teammates' movement so you can land these shots consistently and learn how to match their strafe tempo. Even though Ana, while zoomed in, is hit scan, it's kind of hard to hit people if they are very flighty or if they're playing a thin hitbox hero such as Tracer. The easiest way to have a high accuracy on Ana is by simply matching their strafe tempo, making sure that we see them actually moving so we can kind of predict where they're going, which will help us tremendously. Of course, we want to stay zoomed in the majority of the time. If you need to change your sensitivity, you can, but staying zoomed in on this hero is incredibly important. The scariest Ana players out there are ones that hold Sleep Dart while also having high accuracy. Let's go ahead and double down on the high accuracy requirements, right? Sleep Dart is one of the most influential abilities in all of Overwatch 2. It is the longest lasting crowd control if we hit this consistently. And of course, our teammates allow us to actually get the sleep off. But the scariest Ana by far in Overwatch is one that holds Sleep Dart until the opponents make a mistake, not one that constantly uses it. We always want to be patient and accurate on Ana no matter what. If we're spamming Sleep Dart, we're not actually getting full utility out of it. However, if we sleep a Ryan mid-charge, then we get full value out of that Sleep Dart. We always have to make sure that we're taking our time on this hero so that way we're actually able to deal the appropriate amount of damage, hit the appropriate amount of healing, and apply our crowd control in the most necessary moments that we possibly can. So on Ana, tempo is everything. We always want to make sure that we're landing our shots and that we're accurate, and most of this just comes from straight tempo. Now, next up, we have Mercy. Mercy is an interesting one. The majority of Mercy's tech is actually movement-based. There's not too much going on with Mercy under the hood, right? We don't really want to use our pistol. We kind of just want to sit and staff. We can use damage amp occasionally, but the most effective way to play Mercy is by simply abusing her really strong mobility and healing our allies as often as possible. So, the most important tech that we have for Mercy is going to be the Guardian Angel cancel, of course. Basically, Guardian Angel has this meter on the side. While we're traveling towards somebody and we want to end our travel, we want to hit crouch and this will launch us up into the air. Then we can reposition and then hit Guardian Angel again to once again fill that meter and then change the distance of our jump. This is basic super jumping on Mercy. This is the most important mechanic for actually learning this hero. There's a lot of other movement tech for Mercy, but crouch canceling is by far the easiest way to super jump on this character, so this is why we have this in this video. Once again, we use our Guardian Angel and then we simply tap our crouch. This will allow us to launch ourselves up into the air and not actually be in harm's way permanently. A Mercy that is highly mobile, that is constantly in flight, that is peeking around corners and jumping from ally to ally is basically impossible to hit by even some of the best players. So in lower elo games, this is an incredible way to actually solo carry on a hero that doesn't really carry. Mercy is a purely supportive support. She is not something that is going to be super proactive. She's more reactive and kind of makes do with what she gets. So if we abuse a super jump and we're constantly alive, we can react to a lot more things. Playing your life on Mercy is incredibly important. We always want to fish for those reses. So Guardian Angel cancels are of course going to be the most applicable. There is also some other tech with this where we can actually look straight up as we are ending our Guardian Angel and we can just shoot up into the air, or we can do the S cancel. This stuff is really difficult and I recommend just learning the crouch way if you are new to Mercy. Then when you actually want to invest the time into her and start maining her, we can start looking at different tech options. Next up on our list is Kiriko. Kiriko is kind of more of a DPS compared to a support. She is very independent And we always want to keep this in mind while we're playing this hero. For Kiriko, we always want to aim for headshots. We want to spam corners and tight angles at head height permanently. She has a 3 times headshot multiplier, which means that our headshot actually does 120 damage. As you know, most DPSs in this game have 200 health. Most supports in this game also have around 200 health. This means that Kiriko can basically kill you in 2 shots very quickly if we hit these headshots. Her kunai do have a very slow travel time, but this is actually more of a benefit than it is a hindrance, because we can fire this around a corner and then strafe immediately behind it and minimize our time that we're actually exposed to our enemy. This means that we can have a variable tempo, and it's very hard to actually predict us when we're actually popping out and throwing these kunai down a really tight angle or around a corner. Like Ana, holding your Suzu is the most scary thing that you can do on this character. We really want to have high accuracy on Kiriko. As a hero, she is very high damage and kind of mediocre as far as the healing goes compared to some of the other members of the cast, right? She doesn't do as much single target healing as Ana does. Her healing isn't bad per se, but you really want to focus on dealing damage on her and securing kills instead of actually just healbotting your team and kind of playing your life, right? We want to go for flanks. We want to be spamming these insanely strong headshots so that we're actually able to carry games. Your Suzu is very easily used to counter engage and prevent potent CCs like Sleep from actually being effective. So we always want to aim head height, and we want to be proactive. We want to be running around the map. We want to be securing kills, and we want to be holding our Suzu for when our team actually does end up eating a CC, which is inevitable. Next up is Moira. A Moira that deals damage is able to heal more often. A Moira that focuses on only dealing damage is a detriment to your team. There is a fine line between trolling your team and actually dealing effective amounts of damage in order to maintain good heals. Corridors are Moira's best friend for doing this. If we heal, then we want to fire a damage orb. If we're damaging, then we want to bounce a heal orb in our team. This is basically the general game plan on this hero. We don't want to focus on purely assassinating people because this is not what we want to be doing as his healer. Moira has fantastic AoE healing compared to some of the other AoE healers in the cast, so we want to make the most effect out of this. When we get Beam, completely different. We want to simply aim Coalescence through both our ally and our enemy at all times. So when we're playing Moira, we want to focus on basically purely dealing damage, but with good positioning, so we're also splashing our allies with Coalescence, right? This is the only time in this character's kit that we want to focus on dealing damage primarily instead of going for that ebb and flow, where we're kind of throwing damage and then healing our allies. So the good rule of thumb for this hero is, of course, bounce a heal orb when we're damaging, bounce a damage orb when we're healing, make sure that we're constantly refilling our bars, and that we are being effective instead of just straight up griefing our team. Now, next up is Zenyatta. Zen's secondary fire is very, very overpowered when spammed around blind angles and before engages and pushes. We want to play him similarly to Kiriko. We always want to aim head level on this hero. The best way to one-shot someone is with secondary fire into melee cancel into a normal shot, right? Which is basically the standard bread and butter Zen combo. However, what makes Zen very unique is the sheer amount of damage that he's able to output when compared to most of the other support cast. Kiriko, Baptiste, and sometimes Ana kind of fall in this weird place where they're actually able to get picks very easily. So with Zenyatta, we kind of want to focus on that aspect. We want to be discording people that we're hitting primarily, or that our tank is going to be hitting, because of course that is going to be the weakest member of the team. And then we want to get as much damage for ourselves as we possibly can, while also just placing Harmony Orb on somebody. Harmony is kind of a fire and forget skill. We place this on our tank, we place this on our flanker, and then we want to be fishing for these secondary fires around corners as we're pushing, so that way we can constantly be looking for picks on people. If you have trouble actually landing these, then we can focus on flicking. For people that kind of struggle with accuracy, flicking is a very good technique for fixing bad crosshair placement. This is obviously a band-aid fix, and this isn't what you want to be doing if you want to play FPSs. I've played a lot of FPSs in my time, and I see this time and time again where a lot of players really rely on flicks. You don't want to do this. Of course, you want to have good crosshair placement, because then it closes the reaction time window, right? The faster that you're able to react, the more damage you're able to do. Flicking kind of prevents that. But as a band-aid fix, if you're somebody that kind of struggles with FPSs, if you're newer to the genre, if you're finding yourself really struggling hitting these secondary fires, then what we can do is actually go for the flick and then just try to flick in the general direction of our opponent. When you have a lot of time on your mouse and you understand like the surface that you're playing on, it's pretty easy to hit these flicks. But once again, this is a band-aid fix. We always want good crosshair placement. We want to aim head height, and we want to know where people's heads are going to be on certain terrain. If somebody's above us, we aim a little bit higher. If they're below us, we aim lower. You get the idea. area. Now, next up is Lucio. Frequent song switching, when combined with movement, makes you borderline impossible to hit. We want to stay on green if you want to juke, and then toggle yellow when things slow down to heal our team. Combining this with technical movements such as bunny hopping and wall riding is also super important on this hero. A lot of Lucio players actually recommend changing up your keybinds to make movement easier, and this is true if we don't want to invest a large amount of time into the hero. The settings that matter the most are allow backwards wall ride and also binding our jump to scroll wheel like in Counter-Strike. If you are a CS player, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. This makes bunny hopping exponentially easier to pull off. The easiest way to bunny hop is by simply jumping off of a wall and slowly scrolling scroll wheel. Alternatively, you can just time your jump right as your feet touch the ground. The reason why we want to use scroll wheel is because it removes this timing requirement. There is no hard execution barrier here. So our tip is, of course, we want to really switch our songs. We really want to make sure that we're getting the most out of all of our songs in certain scenarios. If we want a movement speed boost for our team and we want to roll them out, then we use our ability. If we want a movement speed boost as we're rolling out, then of course we use that. If our team is taking a whole bunch of damage in a middle of a skirmish, then of course we want the heal boost, right? So when we're playing Lucio, movement combined with the song switching tempo is what really makes this hero so incredibly impressive, especially in higher elo games. Baptiste is next on our list. This is not a heal-based support. Baptiste is a huge damage dealer with decent healing. You want to play him as a flanker on weird angles and height levels. We really want to abuse our exo boots on this hero. You want to bait your team, use them to gain space, and then maintain that space by using this general approach, right? We always want to be in some weird place, constantly harassing people and poking them down and forcing people to actually come and approach us. Then we can drop Immortality Field around a wall and kind of force the opponents to actually deal with us off on the side while our team takes space. You always want to use Baptiste as a pseudo DPS instead of as a pure support. The general combo that we want to do on Baptiste is get up somewhere high, get on some weird flank, shoot twice, and then heal. So left click, heal our team, left click, heal our team. You get the idea. We space out 2 shots on the enemy with 1 heal for our team. If your team is taking massive damage, then we want to shoot, heal instead. This is what we want to be doing if we're forced to push a choke. If your entire team wants to go straight down a choke, then we shoot, heal. But otherwise, we want to shoot, heal, and always be playing weird angles. You really want to fish for direct impact heal grenades on Baptiste as well, but make sure that we're trying to hit our allied heroes even when we're on these weird flanks, but do know that it's a little bit more difficult. Now, next up is Lifeweaver. Lifeweaver has very low damage, but you're forced to apply it. The best way to apply Lifeweaver's damage is by simply taking weird angles and playing to surprise opponents. We kind of want to play him like a Kiriko in a way, but a Kiriko that does about a quarter of the damage. That doesn't really have like good self-peel, to be honest. You really want to abuse your height with platforms, flanks, and map geometry in general. This is kind of a recurring thing in Overwatch. Once you have space, you can pull your tank to get them in and force a push, but be extremely careful doing this. You can just completely troll your entire team by pulling the tank at the wrong time. If we're playing a map that has a bunch of rooms that we can get into, then what we can do is actually get into one of these rooms by taking some weird angle, by using our platform, and then we can yoink our tank to kind of create space and move our entire team in. When the tank is in the foreground and we're healing them, the enemy team, of course, will have to react to this if we don't get picked, that is. So we can force pushes on this hero. That's what most of the high-level Lifeweavers end up doing, but of course, a certain amount of game knowledge is required while doing this. We kind of want to play Lifeweaver similar to Bapt instead of something like Mercy. You also want to use your tree every single time it's up. Tree sucks, so just toss it to heal allies constantly on cooldown since it has a low-ish ult charge requirement. So our general tip for Lifeweaver is play him more as a DPS. We want to make sure that we are playing in weird angles and actually like kind of forcing our enemies into uncomfortable, cheesy situations, because that is simply what is going to be the most effective on this hero. Lifeweaver does not really have too much gas on his own, to be quite honest, and he's not really super effective in these ball fights, not really super great in brawls either. So we kind of want to force ourselves into these advantageous positions and harass our enemies down so they're forced to actually interact with us instead of just killing our team through our, mediocre kit. So finally, last but not least on this list is Brigitte. Brig has a kind of interesting mechanic with her primary fire. This is going to be the most influential tip for this hero by far. The mace actually hits further to the sides than it does when you have your crosshair on the enemy. Brig's mace also swings like right, left, right, right? You can see where the chain comes from. Our first swing is going to go one way, and then our second swing is going to go the other way, depending on how we're actually using our left click, right? So we want to move our camera like you're actually swinging a mace. wide arcs and slowly, so that way we can match the tempo with the swings to really get the most out of Brig's short-ish range. So when we're playing against a dive composition or we're playing a front to back, right, and the enemy team is in melee range, what we want to be doing is swinging and arcing our mace across the entire enemy team and constantly just beating them back, basically. So those slow, wide arcs with your mouse will make you an incredibly scary ranged threat, while of course also dealing a decent amount of damage to everybody in the front line. Brig is one of the most punishing anti-frontline heroes in the entire game when played correctly. Once mastering this ranged application of our damage, then we can easily do one-shot combos from shorter range, such as left click into shield bash and then whip shot into left click again. This is very effective at just deleting somebody from the face of the planet and preventing them from actually being able to play the game. So on Brig, we really want to use our mace from side to side and go in these slow, deliberate arcs instead of actually just aiming straight center. If you watch any high MMR Brig players, then this mechanic is explained really in depth, and it's done in basically every single game of Overwatch that Brig is picked in, which quite honestly aren't that many because she's mostly relegated to being a counter pick, right? So when we're playing Brig, those slow, deliberate arcs and that lazy kind of pacing is what we want to be doing. Anyways, this was Unsung with GameLeap. Thank you all for watching and hope you all have a wonderful day. I'll see you guys in the next video. Also, make sure that you check out GameLeap.com for all of the highest quality Overwatch 2 guides that you could possibly get your hands on. These guides are written by professional coaches such as myself, and of course are a great resource for anybody that is looking to actually learn the game.